Okay, my friends, welcome back to the channel. We have a new project here today. This is a brand new Wine Enthusiast wine cooler. And I went on a job last week to check it, and it wasn't cooling. And the factory decided to give the customer a new one, and they gave this to me to basically make a service video on it so people can see how it comes apart and how to service it. So, and they also have an extra computer board and display here with the keys. It's brand new. The customer bought two of them, and this is the one that didn't work. So, first thing we're going to have to do is open up the sealed system. And I want to say that this is an R600A refrigerant system, and which requires special kind of service procedures. We're going to tap the sealed system and drain out Freon, if there's any Freon in it. I don't think there's any Freon in it, but we'll find out. And then we'll check for leaks. And another thing that we have to do here is the evaporator plate, or the coil, is back here, and that whole back panel comes off, and these shelves, other than this one, don't come out. They're not designed to just be lifted out. If you see right here, these rails, these tracks, you see right here, this piece of metal is bent in on each rail, so the shelf can't come out. We've done some work before on these R600A wine coolers. I have a video or two. We found a Freon leak on one, and then we fixed it, and that's been working fine for a long time now. But we're going to go ahead and see what we can do. So if you want to follow along, if you haven't subscribed, subscribe, and you'll get a notification every time I make a video. So this is the intro into this machine. The next step will be to start taking it apart. I just plugged it in, started up, everything's running. The temperature is set at 57. It goes down to 41. So let's leave it there. It's now almost 11:15. I've got to go run some errands, and come back and we'll check it, and then we'll tap into the system. My friends, we're back 4.5 hours later. It's still at 63. It's not refrigerating. It's not cooling. So let's get the tools and take off the back cover. Okay, here you have, so here's your filter dryer, compressor, here's your computer board up there, motherboard, whatever you want to call it. This is a capacitor. Compressor's running, it's hot. I'm assuming that this red, that's the process port, the suction line, and we're going to have to bite into that to check the pressure. And I don't see any place where I can put a line tap valve. Let me see. This is 3/16 over here. It's really small tubing. I don't even have a line tap valve for that. I would have to pierce this some way. Maybe you can't sweat it and pull that out because it's flammable. So that's, to me, that's the first thing that I would bring attention to, is that these units have really small tubing. This is 3/16, high side looks like could be aluminum tubing from looking at that. This is your heater loop. Your drain pan evaporates the condensation. This is your drain tube. So now I'm going to try to put a line tap valve on here and see if there's any pressure in the system. So I'm just showing you the diagram, and here's the model number 26409 or 08, let me see, 08 99 04. That's the model. So the high side pressure is 250 psi. Those are dimension pressures, design pressures. Low side 110 psl. Refrigerant 600A, R600A. It's 2.6 ounces. The rated voltage is 115, frequency 60. Rated current 2 amps. Power out input 140 watts. 190 watts. Sorry, my gotta get right on top of this. Print is so small. I'm reading it for you. 190 watts. That's the power input. And the net weight of this unit is 318 pounds. 318 pounds. So this is a warning label here. Cyclopentane and R600A. So you got that little warning sign on here. So if you're a refrigeration mechanic and you haven't gotten certified for R600A yet, it would be in your best interest to do that. I got mine certification online. I took a test. I studied and took a test. And if you're going to be working on these kinds of units in the future, you might need to pick up some 3/16 tubing and maybe some of these really tiny filter dryers. I'm not sure. But before we can move on, and by the way, this is here's the compressor EMY S55CL. 55 I'm assuming is the BTUs, 5500 BTUs. I mean 550 BTUs, sorry. And that's it. So let's shut it off, tap into that, and keep our fingers crossed. First problem we come into now is that this process port, it's metric. Obviously this 1/4 inch spacer here does not fit squarely onto that tubing. So I was planning on piercing it up here so I could solder in another piece of tubing and make a longer process port, or put a process port right in there. So here's a word to the factory, if they ever get around to watching this video, to make these process ports longer, or possibly 1/4 inch. I don't see why not, or make these longer so we have room to get into there to put a line tap valve on, because any extra work that's going to be required to fix these things, the technicians and the service companies out there are going to charge you for it. So the harder you make it for them to diagnose this, the more it's going to charge the customer, and they're not going to be happy with their purchase. So let's move on. Okay, so this is the 5/16 adapter as opposed to the 1/4 inch adapter. See the difference in the thickness there? This has a little bit snugger fit on that tubing than the 1/4 inch, so I'm going to use that. And then I can fix this once we get all the Freon out, or I shouldn't say Freon anymore, it's refrigerant. You know, these line tap valves have been around forever almost. I mean, I'm almost 60 years into this business, and I've been using them ever since. It's probably one of Supco's best inventions. These are not recommended for 600A series, 600A refrigerant systems, because, you know, like I said, it's flammable stuff. So, piercing the tubing now. Let's see what we got. Let me do one thing. I'm going to pump some R600A through here and bleed it so we don't suck in any air. Because air is detrimental to a refrigeration system. It throws it all off. Pressures and everything. Okay, so I opened it up, purged it out, and now I can open this up, and it's going into a vacuum. Okay, so I turned it on. Pressure is fluctuating. I could shoot some Freon in there, just a little bit, to see if it helps. This is just the refrigerant metering through. Now, this machine is going to be a little difficult to take apart to get to the evaporator coil, as I mentioned before. Also be a could be a restriction in there too. That looks like decent pressure. I mean, it's a positive pressure. So let's watch it for a while and we'll come back to it. Okay, we are back. This has been running now for, I want to say, maybe a couple hours. And the condenser is working because the walls are hot on the outside, which means refrigeration's working. And we got 44 degrees. And we have it set at 41. So that's pretty damn good. But I'll tell you what happened. When it was running and I was working here in the shop, I heard it making some really strange noise, like it was plugged up and the pressure was building up inside the condenser. And it just, I heard a noise, and then it started working. So I want to say that it was probably restricted somewhere. There could have been something in the way. I don't know if it's going to happen again. We're going to try it again, but for now it's working and it's pulling down. So I'll show you how to take out these shelves in case you have to get to the back, and then what we're going to do here is we're going to drain the refrigerant out, and we're going to pull a vacuum on it and change that, take that line tap valve off there and put something more permanent in there. So this is called the condensate pan, and already I can see, ooh, it's hot, corrosion on the corrosion, but that line is cold. See the moisture on there? Moisture, that's the suction line. Look at the size of the suction line. Looks like it could be 3/16. So I'm going to close this off for now. Let it run overnight. Make sure it goes off and on. And then I'm going to drain the refrigerant out. I'll make a video of it and show you so you can see how it's done. I just got some oil on my fingers. Wow, doesn't smell like any oil that I'm accustomed to. Alright guys, that's it for now. See you later. Okay, here we are. We're back with this Wine Enthusiast wine cooler. And we're going to show you some simple service procedures and give you a little rundown on how this machine disassembles and goes back together. Now, these shelves do not come out regularly. It's not like a Sub-Zero where you can just lift them up and take them out. The way to take out these shelves is each shelf has 2 screws, one here, one there, one there. You take those 2 screws out, 4 screws out, and then you lift this up. Let me get a screwdriver. Okay, so the reason why I'm using a hand screwdriver is because I don't want to use risk damaging these screws. They're really tiny, thin screws, and I think it's better off if we just do it this way. It's just going to show you how it comes out, so you have an idea, if you have to service this thing, what you need to do if you want to get inside. And just to recap, when we got this machine from the factory, it was running but not cooling. There was something wrong in the sealed system, and we have since resolved that problem. And so now it's just a matter of getting this set up so you can see how it comes apart. Okay, so now I took out those 4 screws, right? Okay. Now here's how you take out the shelf. You just lift it up like this. You see it's got these slots in the back. They fit right on top of those tabs. And here's how the rails come off. They're screwed into the side wall. I took these off just to see how they operated, but they're screwed into plastic, so you have to be really careful with those screws. Don't use a screw gun. And you have your 2 circulating fans. The display is right here, and we have a new display. We're going to show you how to change that, and that's going to come off up there. So let me take off the rest of these shelves so we can take off the back wall, and then from there I can give you show you what the evaporator coil looks like. Okay, here is a picture of behind the panel. That's the evaporator coil, and this is your heat exchanger coming up. That's enclosed in this heavy plastic seal here, and we could take this off. It's probably copper to aluminum, just so we know. Let's see what's going on underneath here. Yeah, so right here you have your heat exchanger, and you can see that this is a blast fitting. It's a copper to aluminum, and everything there looks good. I just want to give you an opportunity to see what's going on in here. All right, so you've got 2 wiring harnesses here. Here's the panel. You got 12-volt coaxial fans. The blue is for your sensor, which goes down to here. That's your sensor, senses your temperature, and the black and red are for your fans. So it's a very tedious process to take this apart. There's a lot of screws. Those screws in that tray are all for the shelves. All these screws down here are for the back panel. And there's a couple of big long screws here that go in the middle, that go into that metal bracket there. So that's how you take it apart. I'll show you when I put it back together. I'll film it so you can see how I do it. It's very easy. It's just tedious. So that's the inside. And the only thing we need to do now is to remove the display panel here so you can see how to change that. So stand by. Okay, so for the display panel, you take these 2 screws out and you just pop this panel down like this. There's your display. So you unscrew it, you just take the screws out, you remove the panel. It's got a little plug-in harness right here. Pull that out, or you can pull it out from here, either one. And that's how you change the display. And then the computer board is in the back, and we'll cover that when we start working on the back. So I just want to show you how to get that out. Okay? It's pretty simple. And that's it. By the way, these screws are aluminum. They're not magnetic. So a magnetic screwdriver is not going to help you. It's very simple. 2 screws, boom, covers comes off, panel comes out. So now I'm going to show you how to put the panel back in, and we'll start working on the back. This is plastic. This is just a piece of plastic. So you get it in here, and you want to reconnect your harnesses. Okay, that goes there. Okay, that's in. It's a little flimsy. So I got the panel back in. You got to play with it a little bit because it's really tight fit. You kind of have to kind of warp the panel to get it back in there. And if you can, get the bottom in first because it's just such a tight fit. So we'll line up these screw holes here and get this thing screwed back in. Go through here. One up here, one here. I would put these in first if you can. That'll help keep the panel lined up, and then start putting your side screws in there. It's going to be a little bit of a problem to find this hole because you can't see anything. Let me see. No, that's not it. There it is. All right, so I got this one started. All right, that one started. And then we just have to get this one here. All right, that one started. Let me put all the screws in the sides. And we'll get this, clean it up a little bit, and start putting it back together. Okay, do not use a screw gun to put these screws back in, because you'll strip them. Since they're not magnetic anyway, won't help much. Okay, so it's just about all back together. I just want to show you how to put these shelves in. You got these slots right here on each side, and then on top of your rails, you see that little thing sticking out right there? That goes into the slot on the shelf. So you put it in like this. Push it all the way back. You lift up the back of the shelf. Let that slide into those slots, and then pull it out like that. And then you put your screws in. Now this is tedious and time consuming. Let's see. Here's a little screw hole there. Do not over tighten them. It's just really little small screws. It's just, I don't know. I'm not the engineer. I would have designed it a little differently. Okay. Same thing over here. There's your screw hole. One screw left. Great. No leftover screws. So that completes the video on the inside and the description of the evaporator and all that, and how to take out the shelves and also the display panel. So that part's done, and we'll get back to the rest and do the back, the compressor and control board. Okay, now let's drain this refrigerant out of the compressor. As you can see, I got a hose that's going outside. Do not drain flammable refrigerant in a customer's home, and if you're an owner, do not even attempt to work on this system. This is highly flammable refrigerant, and there are precautions that you have to take. If you're not certified to deal with R600A or propane, don't mess with it, because you could get hurt. There's a reason why you have to be certified. And if you're a tech, you can get certified online. I got certified online. I studied online and I took a test, and it was pretty simple. But it's the wave of the future, these refrigerants. So if you're not certified, you might want to think about that. Anyway, we're going to open up this tap valve here, drain the refrigerant out, and then we're going to solder in a process port, and then we're going to weigh in the gas. Okay, by the way, whenever you work on these units, if you're a consumer, always remove the plug. Don't work on anything electrical with the plug in. Be safe. The refrigerant is out, so we're going to get our welding equipment here and unsweat that process line and put something in there. I went out and I bought some access ports. Since this is metric, I bought 1/8 and I bought 3/16. I'm hoping that we can use something that'll fit in there. Maybe I can get a 1/4 inch in there. I don't know. We'll try that. Okay, now we have a control board here, right there. I'm going to show you how to remove this. There's no screws. Okay, so you just push down these tabs right here. And that's it. That's how you take it out. Remember, the plug is out. So to change the board, what you want to do is you want to change one wire at a time. There's no need to change this, but I just want to show you. These are the keys for the door. Here's the board. Okay. So what you would do is you would just change one wire at a time and transfer it over. And then to put it back in, what you need to do is you push it in, set the top in first. Just like this, behind those little tabs on the top, and then you just push it in. That's it. That's how you change the board. Now, and here's the display. I showed you how to take the display off. It's just one little harness there. Now there's still some refrigerant draining out of this port here that I opened up right here. I can still feel it. So I'm going to let that sit overnight, and then tomorrow we'll what I want to do is unsweat this and put a process port in there. Let me show you what I got here. These are access valves. These are 1/8. Probably not going to use these. And these are 3/16. It looks like a 1/4 inch line, but it's metric, so I don't have any swaging tools to open that up, so it's going to be a little bit of a hassle. Well, when we get to that, we'll handle that. But these are access ports, and I could always stick this in there and crimp it, but the thing about these have steps on them. If you look at this
Probably going to wind up using this one, but right here you see this has got a step on it. You can step it up to a different size. I think we're going to wind up using this one, even if we take this off and just stick it in there and sweat it in, just so we have a means of recharging it. Like I said, this takes 2.6 ounces of R600A and highly flammable. Okay, I'll be back. Okay, so now we drained all the refrigerant out. I want you to be cognizant of this risk of fire or explosion. Flammable refrigerant. If you're a homeowner, do not attempt this. You have to be certified to work with this kind of refrigerant. So anyway, I drained all the refrigerant out, and I took a lighter and I just checked it to make sure there's no pressure in the system. See, no pressure. Yesterday when I did this, I had a little bit of flame coming out of there. So I let it sit overnight, and now it's drained. So now what we're going to do is we're going to unsweat that tubing there. Let me get a pair of pliers. Okay, I'm just going to cut this off. I can't get in there with a tool. Okay, now that's his 3/16. Perfect. Look at that. I'm going to cut this down a little bit. So it's just a little process port sticking out of there. All right. It's looking good. Now we get a little brush here. Okay, a little flux. Now I've taken the Schrader valve out. Of course, you don't want to melt the seal on that. Nice, very nice. Okay, let's get some solder. Okay, so before I sweat this process port in there, I'm just going to pull a vacuum on it just to pull out any additional vapors, because there's some more vapor in there. So we'll hook up our hose over here. I just want to get the vapor out because I did drain it, so. Okay, so now I'm going to pressurize the system with nitrogen. Just want to make sure we don't have any leaks at that process port. Got 150, 160 psi. We're good. That's what I like to see. All right, so what I'm going to do now, put the vacuum pump on, suck out all the nitrogen, and then we'll weigh in the gas, and then we'll be done. Okay, We're down to a deep vacuum here. Shut this off. Okay, so I tried using this kit here, this Master Cool kit with the scale, and it just leaks liquid out of this push-in port here. So this is toast. Can't use that anymore. I mean, the scale works, but what's the point? So I have this other scale here. I've got a can of 600A refrigerant, and what I'm going to do first is I'm going to pull a vacuum, because I did depressurize the system. I want to pull a vacuum on it, and then we'll weigh the gas in. Alright, so it's in the vacuum. It's got all the air out. So now we'll close this off. We're going to hook this into our refrigerant can. Okay. Purge out the air out of the hose like that. Then we can weigh in 2.6 ounces. That's what it says. So we got 13.8, so we want 11.2, right? 11.2 is what we want. Okay. That's close. I moved the hose, so that's going to give it a different reading. So we got 2.6 ounces. Weighed it in. Okay. That's it. We'll put the rear. We'll test it, let it run, make sure everything's okay. But then we'll put the back cover on, and this job will be done. I hope you learned something. Any comments? Leave them. Let me know. See what you think. Till next time, I'll be back. Okay, my friends, just one more thing before we close out this video. I mean, the temperature's been pulling down now. It's been running for about 15 minutes. It was at 61. It's down to 54. I got it set at the coldest temperature, which is 41. But I just wanted to mention, if you're a tech, this kit that I bought about a year or so ago, I'm not sure where I bought it from. It could have been Amazon. This tubing, which supplies the liquid refrigerant to this valve that goes to the process line on the refrigerator, and this presses in like this. This is a bad design. It's a defect, actually. And I called up the factory on it and talked to them about it, and they're not willing to make any compensation for it, and they even knew that there was a problem with this thing. Because the new ones, I went online and I found I had to order a new system. The new ones have like a hose fitting on it, on the end of it, so you can screw the hose into it, into this valve and into the scale. So if you're in the market for something like this, I think they're the only company I could find that makes a small scale like this in this carrying case with this refrigerant. So I almost used almost all of the refrigerant. This thing's almost empty. So just a word to the wise, if you're going to buy one of these, make sure you get the newer one that has the fittings on this end here, so otherwise you're going to have a problem with it leaking. Okay, that's it. We'll see you on the next one.